Today is International Survivors of Suicide Loss Day, a day in which survivors of suicide loss come together to find connection, understanding and hope through shared experience. When I was 17, my dad took his own life, and until that point I'd never experienced loss like it. Dad left behind a wife, daughters, sons, a mother, dad, brother, sisters and many friends. He was a psychiatric nurse and well respected in his community. Probably the last person you'd expect to end their life in this way. For those of us left behind when someone is lost to suicide, the grief and the trauma can be especially difficult to handle. Research shows that those bereaved by suicide can have a particularly complex set of feelings and can experience difficult struggles and dilemmas in trying to resolve their grief. The effects ripple throughout the family and the community and sometimes cause irreparable damage. When you lose someone to suicide, you may find yourself left with many questions. What ifs, could I's, should I's? The death can be clouded with anger, shock, confusion, guilt. Was there something I could have done? Why didn't I notice? Did they mean to go this far? Did they not love me enough to stay? Why would they leave me like this? The difficulty here is these are questions that can rarely be answered and ones that for those of us left behind will have to learn to navigate and to comprehend. As a 17-year-old girl, I had so many questions over the weeks that followed. I convinced myself that I knew where my dad was and that if I'd gotten there sooner, I would have stopped him. I spent sleepless nights analysing the last words that he said to me, looking for a clue. Did I miss something? I watched around me as my family fell to pieces. Something to this day has never been repaired. The loss is great. By speaking out about our experiences, we can start to break down the stigma surrounding suicide. Over time, I was able to be more open about my feelings due to the loss of my dad. We are, as a society, conditioned to feel just sad when someone dies. And a lot of the time, I felt really angry at my dad for leaving me, which brought feelings of guilt. But through talking with others who had similar experiences, I realised that the anger is not only fairly normal in such a situation, but part of the healing process, and there is no right or wrong way to deal with grief. If you've been affected by the loss of someone to suicide, there are organisations that can help. Talking through difficult emotions and talking about the person who has died can be really helpful in processing the loss. Grief doesn't necessarily stop, but it can change. Time doesn't necessarily take away the grief, but it can give us space to adapt around it, accepting the loss and giving it new meaning. There is a great power in sharing your experiences, and there is always someone who is willing to listen.